Hey guys, today we tie a articulated fly, a hoovering articulated fly in pike optic, another pike optic. So we want to have a fly which is really just floating kind of in the water, and we tie it on a RX TP610, you can see that one here. And the stinger hook, it's not really a typical stinger hook, but it's a RX NS 172. That's that one here. It's a Gamaros hook. And why we use this stinger hook is that when you attach the hook to a shank later like that, the hook always falls down a little bit, and this hook is shaped so that I really don't have any problems with the hook set. I had a usual stinger in that fly before and tested it, and I lost quite a few fish on the stinger, so I changed it against this one, and now I'm not losing any fish anymore, so really made the difference. We're using two shanks. This one's are partridge shanks. It's important that we're using shanks that are kind of that you have a double shank in here, which you can close with your thread. If you use, for example, shanks like that, these are good as well, but they open up if you put a stinger in here. So these are for articulated flies without stingers, and if you want to put a stinger in, make sure that you have a double wire connection which you can close with a thread. We just put everything together. You see here a glass of water. I just grab it like that, take my tying thread and just go a few rounds with thread around everything just to hold it close together. You can use some tape or whatever as well, but it's just easier for me. You don't have to make a knot or anything because you want to get it loose in a bit anyway. And now all the weight to our fly is quite packed together, and now I'm taking these foam discs. This is a 10mm from Saibai. You can also use the Bauer 10mm foam disc, and we just slide it on the hook like that and see if it's floating or if it's going down. We see it's still floating on the surface, so we just take a little bit off the foam, just a bit, not too much. It's still floating, so we take a little bit more off. So now you can see that we just got that piece where it's sinking. So you see this little piece is just making the difference. Now it's really slowly sinking, and then we have the advantage that if we fish the fly will just slowly sink, nearly stand still. So this is now equally balanced, that's how we use it, and now we can tie the fly. So let's start with the fly. We start of course with the stinger hook. It's as I mentioned before, the RX NS 172 size 1. They also have 1.0, but I think 1.0 is a little bit too big for this purpose. And this one here, it is stable enough. I catch quite big fish already on it, and didn't have a problem, so no fears there. It's a pretty strong hook for Gamaros hook. So just a little bit of super glue on the shank. I'm using the Gulf Minuteman here. I used to use the Zebra brush on, but every time I used it, it was completely stuck after 2-3 months that I had to buy a new bottle, and this one I'm using now for at least 4 months, I think, and it's still no problem at all. So however, we start with a little thread wrap, and then we grab a little bit titanium wire. Just doesn't need to be long, maybe like that. Just cut it. And then we get a tail connector on top. You can also use I'm using these quick attach. I think they are from Partridge as well. But you can also use just the mustard fast attach clips. They work as good as the others. Then I'm just putting a little bead on the titanium wire. Like that. Usually I like to have a fluorescent bead here as well, but I don't have any anymore. But if you tie it, you can also use really good the Bauer fluorescent beads, the small ones. And then we just put a little bit more super glue on the shank, and then just place the wire into the super glue and just tighten it. And you don't have to fold anything back. There's no hook, so there will be not much tension on it, and the combination of thread and super glue really holds it tight, so this won't come loose. What I do then is I take these polar reflector flash and just tie it in here, just to get a little kind of connection to the tail I put in here. So I don't want to have to fly blank here. Just go all the way up front and then just catch it with thread. Cut it. I hope that my hook stays in focus, but on my transformer all the screws are loose now. So it's really kind of broken. I have to really get a new vise at some point. So everything is just set on completely tight, but it's just turning. So time for a new one. So once we have done that, we just, oh sorry for that, we make a knot here, and then we take our Gulf ambulance. For this pattern I take the chartreuse one, as I want to tie the pike colors, and we just cover the thread wrap. And just hit it with our torch. And we have a really nice fluo hotspot on the stinger, just a trigger point where we want it to bite. So like that. And we'll take that out. And now we start with the first shank. And just put it in here like that. So on the shanks we also place the foam discs. So now we take the foam disc, we just balanced before and we cut it in 3 pieces, like that and the bigger one. So we also just putting the right amount of weight to our fly. As of course the bigger shanks and the hook will put more weight on. We want to have the biggest foam disc on the hook. So this is the smallest here on the left side. For you, for me it's at least the left side here, and the biggest one we'll put on the hook. So same procedure as always. Put a little bit of super glue here. That also helps to hold the shank together. And now we just start with a few thread wraps and just closing it. knot in it. So we have to put the foam disc on top of it now. I didn't put any on the hook, on the stinger hook, to keep the hook bend open. But now on the shank we'll put a few shanks, and we put it on first because the advantage if we put this one now on the hook shank is that we can slide it all the way back here, and then we can close this little hole in the back with the foam discs, and this prevents our hook from sliding up front or backwards. So we have our stinger hook always in the right position as we want it. So we just fix it or secure it with a little bit of super glue, and then we just slide the foam in like that. And now the stinger hook just stays really in the rear, and then we can restart our thread wraps again. So what we do then is we start with our reflector flash again, because this fly is just tied with 3 different materials. It's a reflector flash, it's a ripple ice fiber, and it's craft fur. Yeah, and in the head we can of course use some Monster Depth, but we just put a little bit of the reflector flash in here. That helps us also to cover the foam discs in the beginning a bit. And if I would tie the ripple ice and the craft fur right onto the foam disc, it would stand up in a 90-degree angle, and it would be a really weird baitfish shape. So then we take this craft fur. This one here is fly fur. It's a really nice long craft fur, but of course you could take any craft fur you like, but in my opinion for this fly I found it to be the best. But just use what you got, use what you have. You can also use the Hairline Extra Select, is really good craft fur as well. But I really like the fly fur. So we tie in the craft fur and just reverse it. Just tie on top of it here. And now we take our ripple ice and lay it on top of it. So we mix quite a big bunch of the ripple ice. Just mix it in your fingers a bit. It is a bit of a mess, but you get used to it. But once you mix it, it looks really cool. Got really these olive green hues of a northern pike, and the nice thing, it's also like super fluorescent. I hope you can see that with the light, but the chartreuse in it, it's really highly fluorescent. And now we just tie it in, not all at once, but we just grab a bit and just gently fold it around the hole. Just tie it in. Just reverse the remaining bits like that. And just tie it down. Make a knot or two in it. Now we of course secured with a little bit of super glue. Rather use a little bit more here, as you really don't want to have to pull it loose. Like that. And then we can already use the next shank. This is a partridge 35mm. They are actually bigger than 35mm. I don't know why they say 35. Maybe just the middle bit is 35. I have no idea. But yeah, just slide it in when the hook is still attach to your wires makes it easy. We go like that, because the hole here we can just cover with our foam disc again, and this one we tie onto the hook shank, so that makes it less bulky then. We start again with the super glue, just to make sure it's really between these folded pieces, so we have a really tight connection of the shank. And now we just close it with a few thread wraps. Make a few knots in it and just cut it. So now we take our second foam disc. I just made it with a dubbing needle a hole right in the middle, and again we fix it here with some super glue, and whoop, here we go. So the hole of the shank is nearly closed, and this really prevents our tail from coming up front and tailing into our hook, and just makes fishing easier. And as I said, I fished this fly now for 1.5 months, and tried it a lot. Had quite a few problems in the beginning with the stinger. This was solved with the Gamaro stinger hook, but it really moves really nicely, and I think now it's just a perfect fly to fish. So we just take our polar reflector flash again around that distance, so it's around 6 to 8 turns I think on the shank. Just fix it, and I always go a few thread wraps back on top of it just to secure it a bit more. And then it's the same procedure. We take a little bit of craft. I have to be a little bit careful as this is the last piece. I have to get some new one. So just tie it in and we'll reverse it again. Take a little bit of our pre-mixed Replies fiber again. Fold it back and just tie on top. And then we tie our polar reflector flash again in. It's always kind of the same steps. It's really simple to remember. You just go a little bit forward on the shank and then backward and make a knot now here. Now we just open the hook, the vise, and put everything aside. And now we attach our hook into the vise. This is a 4.0 RX TP610, a really nice hook. It's a really wide hook gap, and I really like that on pipe flies. But just in my opinion, as bigger the hook gap is, as higher is the possibility that you hook the fish good. So what we do is we kind of place the shank on top of here. So to do that, I always put some super glue here, where I place the shank in, and just lay it into the super glue. just a few loose reps. Not loose, but also not super tight reps, so I can still move it a bit. And now we just fill it up with super glue like that. So yeah, I want to have, of course, a really strong connection, so I'm using quite a bit of the super glue here. And then we just go with some tight thread reps above it, and this will be really solid, never lost a shank or something like that. Also don't really think that that's possible. So this is a rock solid connection, and then we just go with our polar reflector flash just above it. Just cover this bulky part where we have now the shank laying. Just cut it off. Take now a really small piece of craft fur, not too much. But the problem is, if you always have to tie a little bit of craft fur in between, otherwise you have just gaps in the fly, and that is not what you want. But here we can just use a really small amount, so just a little bit of ripple eyes as well to get the bling in here. And that we just make a knot in here, cut the thread. Now we take our last foam disc, and also here we just go through the middle with our dubbing needle. What I like to do then is just put the knife in here and just turn it a bit, just open up the hole a bit. Makes it easy to slide it on top of the hook, and also gives me the possibility to slide it on top of the bulk part here where I put the shank in. So I have it like that, but you don't want to push it too far, because if I push it too far I push the fibers down and then I don't get volume in my fly. So just gently put it on here and then it's perfect. Also really a reason why we want to have here a wide hook bend is because you put this pop on here and over this foam disc, and of course we close a little bit of a hook gap here, and here there's a lot of space still, so there's no problem in hooking the fish. So now put a little bit of glue on the shank up front here, just to ensure that the thread which I put now on again is not sliding around. As thread I'm using usually a GSP 100, by the way. This one here is a 50 denier, so it also works with a 50 denier. It's not really, you don't have any bucktail parts where you want to hollow tie and you need big cones, so you can also really use a 50 denier thread if you prefer it. If you're a really beginner in tying, I would recommend to take a little bit bigger thread. Just it's a little bit simpler, easier. It's just a little bit easier to tie. So we just tie our polar reflector flash in again, and just make really just a few turns, not too many. And so it's around 4 or 5. I'm stuck with my bobbin and the stinger. Never mind. And then we just catch that one again. Fold it back with the fingers, and then we go on top of it again, just a bit, going back here, just gives us some volume, and then I managed quite well. So we take the last bit now of our fly fur. Always forgot to say that in the beginning, but always remove the underfur. There's quite a bit of fluff coming out, and you don't want to have that in your fly. Just tie it in reverse. Always when you tie in reverse, just make the first 2 turns really in like in open loops, so then the material folds itself around the hook, so you don't have to tie it top and bottom. You can just tie it at once. You see it's really well distributed around the whole fly. So we just fold it back, just go on top of it. And the advantage of these foam discs is now, of course, not that I only have a hoovering fly, but I also have a fly which has kind of a solid body and is pushing a lot of water. So that's a really nice side effect. And we take the last amount of ripple ice. So you use quite a bit of ripple ice in this fly. But if you want to only have like 3 or 4 flies of this kind in your box, pike color, black, baitfish, and maybe bream, and then you're really good to go. And yeah, okay, I lost mine now in some stones, my last one, so this one will go straight into my box again. But usually you don't lose that many pike flies, eh? So it takes a bit to tie it, and also the material is quite a bit cost efficient, especially on this pattern here. When you tie the pike pattern with like 5 different colors of ripple ice. But you can also tie simpler patterns and just go 1 or 2 colors, so you can tie a white one, and then you only have like 3 materials, and then this fly gets really cost efficient. So we just tie that in here, and then I like to secure it with a little bit of super glue again. And now we finish off the fly with Monster Dub in the head section, and then we kind of have a finished fly already. And that's yeah, just put some 2 eyes on it. For my pike flies, I like to keep it a little bit natural in this color, so these are pretty much eyes that look like the ones from a pike, and then we put a little bit of olive dub on the top. And as we know from pike, we go a little bit with white for the belly. So let me just grab the dubbing. We just tie it on top like that, maybe 70-30. Like that. And then I take a little bit of baitfish belly. It's like a tan brownish, yellowish, whitish color. I just like to put it on the sides, just to get kind of a transition into the white belly. So it's not really just going from olive straight to white, but I got the transition of the colors. It's probably not necessary, but I think it just looks better. And as we all know, you just put more trust in the fly that looks perfect. Then we grab the white and tie it on the belly side. And then just always, when you tie in dubbing heads, don't put the glue in between. Put the super glue on your line, on your tying thread, because then you can really put it really precisely in the gap where you want it. So you see that here now. Hopefully you see that. You see all the super glue on the thread, and I can just go around it. I'm not touching any dubbing. It's just all where I wanted to have it. And then I just make 1 knot into the wet super glue, and then it's done. Then I grab my brush, just a little cat brush out of the pet store, and just brush everything in place. Take the tear mender. Don't use too much, you just want to have it on here on the eye, where you put the eye on top. but this really is just soaking through the material onto the hook shank. It really gives you a nice connection of the eyes. They will never come loose with it. So it's Louis using a E6000. Like that. So we got a really clean positioning of the eyes. Now we just use the eye tool and let it dry for a second. So the eyes of our fly dried now. Meanwhile I prepared dragon tail already. Just put in here like that. And then we have our finished fly. Now I just do a little bit fine tuning, so I just use some gold flex mat for the head. Nice and thin super glue. Same thing on the belly. And then you can just, of course, play around. This here is glow man. So just put a little piece on top of it. Just to give it a nice effect. You can see that already here how it's glowing. So this will be really, really cool as well if you fish it really deep. So, just a little bit of glow man. And then if you want, you can still cover your whole fly in flex mat. Just go once around it. It's not really necessary, but you can do it. You just get a little bit on the eyes. Make sure your fly is straight in the bobbin before. A bit on the other eye. It really helps us to get a really solid head, and just pushing also a lot of water. Now just give it a few turns. Give it time. It's really thin, so there are no bubbles coming out. And then we just hit it with the torch, dry it while turning. We got our finished fly. This really swims so nice in the water. We've got our little Fluke Gulf hotspot here. Got a stinger hook. If I fish with tails, I always fish a stinger hook, especially when the water is murky and you have a lot of action here in the back. They often go for the tail, and then it's really good to have a stinger. We have our foam discs here and on the shank here, which are also keeping the volume of the fly up, pushing a lot of water. And we got our really nice head, which is still soft because it's flex mat, but it's also a little bit glowing in the dark here underneath. And yeah, really nice fly. Really fish it a lot. Fish it in 3 or 4 different colors mainly. White and pink is also really good for Zander. But yeah, pike, black, baitfish and bream are the main colors I fish. Thanks for watching.